All right, let's get right into it. If you've ever been deep in a big, ambitious project, something you plan to work on for years, you probably know the real threat. It isn't running out of ideas. No, the real danger is being crushed under the weight of them. It's that slow, creeping chaos that can bring even the most brilliant work grinding to a halt. So today, we're going to talk about a toolkit for preventing that, a way to build research that is truly made to last.
The problem actually has a name, and it's a really good one. Collapse by accumulation. See, it's not some big, dramatic failure. It's more like a slow sinking, where you go down under the weight of your own progress.
And this quote, it really is the heart of the matter. It's a huge insight. It's not a lack of inspiration that tanks these massive projects. It's the unmanaged abundance of it. It's the constant flood of new material without a solid structure to actually support it.
And you've probably felt this happen, right? Ideas just keep piling on top of each other. Drafts start to swell into these unmanageable monsters. The very words you use to describe your work start to drift and lose their meaning. And then, before you know it, that beautiful, crisp clarity that started the whole thing, it's just gone, it's buried. And what you're left with is something fragile, something vulnerable to collapse.
So how do we fight this? Well, not with more rules or some kind of stiff bureaucracy. We do it with a better way of thinking. Let's try to reframe this whole process. Think of your research not as just collecting ideas, but as an active architecture. You are consciously building a structure.
This framework gives us 4 really distinct stages, and each one has its own job. So think of it this way. Atlas 1.0, that's your sketchpad. It's wild, it's exploratory, it's where you just throw ideas around. Atlas 2.0 is the blueprint. This is where you take those messy sketches and give them a formal, coherent structure. Then you have Atlas 3.0, which is construction. You're actually building the thing. And finally, Atlas 4.0 is inspection. This is the finished, polished, audit-ready work that you can show to the world. And here's the crucial part. These aren't just steps on a timeline, they are fundamentally different categories of work.
And that distinction is so important, because it leads us to our first really practical tool, preventing what's called layer bleed. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's what happens when the materials from one stage, say the sketchpad, get all mixed up with another, like the final construction, and that weakens the entire structure.
This slide is a perfect example of what that looks like in the real world. On the left, you've got the classic mistake. You're mixing solid, inspected, construction-grade material, like a database architecture, with raw, speculative sketches, like some new UI experiment. You're contaminating your stable work. So the fix is containment. You keep them separate. Each idea gets routed to its proper layer, and that protects the whole project from that speculative bleed.
And here's another brilliant example of that bleed, but this time it's with language. Just look at the incorrect version. You're using the definitive language of a finished building, this is optimal, to describe something that's still just a sketch. That creates this false sense of certainty that can really weaken your foundation. The fix is simple, but it's so powerful. Use language that actually matches the stage you're in. Conditional words like may suggest keep your exploratory work right where it belongs.
Okay, let's move on to our next tool. And this one is a really big one. It kind of challenges our entire idea of what productivity and momentum are supposed to look like. It's about seeing the act of stopping not as a failure, but as a deeply strategic move. This is the idea of dormancy.
I mean, just think about that question. Our culture is obsessed with constant forward motion, always pushing, always grinding. But what if pausing was actually a way to make your work stronger? What if putting an idea on hold for a while was the smartest possible thing you could do for its long-term survival?
And this definition just changes the whole game. Dormancy isn't about throwing an idea into a dusty closet and forgetting about it. No, it's an active process. It's a pressure release valve. It fundamentally decouples that feeling of being busy from the reality of actually making progress. You intentionally set an idea aside to protect it from the pressure to move forward before it's really ready.
And when you do that, the benefits are huge. It frees you from that sunk cost fallacy. You know, that feeling that you have to keep working on something just because you've already put so much time into it. It also protects you from trying to force connections between ideas that just aren't ready to be connected yet. And maybe most importantly, it preserves your work without creating this obligation to finish it right now. An idea can just pause, safe and sound, without being lost forever.
Okay, our final tool gives us a whole new way to talk about our projects, a way to describe how they evolve over time. It's a language that's not just for what a system is, but for where it's going.
So, what's the big difference here? Well, most of the time, we describe our projects using linear language, a static list of features. It tells you what something is. But dimensional language is dynamic. It tells you where something is going. It lets us map a system state like a coordinate on a graph. So for instance, instead of just saying your project now has a user profile, you could describe its movement from a state of low personalization to high personalization along a specific axis. It's a language that's literally built to track evolution.
Now, it's really important to be clear about this. This is a metaphor, but the source material is very confident here. The fact that this language is separate from, actual physics isn't a weakness, it's a huge strength. It is a deliberate design freedom. It's a tool that's purpose-built for thinking about systems without being tied down by the constraints of the real world.
So let's bring this all together. All of these tools we've talked about, the layering, dormancy, this dimensional language, they're all part of a bigger idea. They are instruments of governance. And governance isn't about restriction or red tape. It's about building things to last. It is all about durability.
And this is the payoff. This is what good governance actually gets you. It preserves the history and the memory of your project. It protects the clarity of each individual idea. It stabilizes all those different layers of work, preventing that messy bleed we talked about. And at the end of the day, it's what enables longevity. It lets your work grow and change for years without collapsing under its own weight.
If you take away just one thing from all of this, let it be this right here. This whole system of containment, of separating ideas, of pausing them, of defining what stage they're in, it is not meant to hold you back. It is the very infrastructure that makes durable, ambitious, long-term work possible in the first place.
And that really leaves us with one final provocative question. I want you to think about your own big projects, your own long-horizon research. Are you just accumulating ideas, or are you building an architecture? Is your work truly built to last?